What's going on, guys? So I wanted to kind of pick up where I left off. Um, so when I got back to his house, to my ex's home, I decided that I was going to make sure that I stayed awake, that I wasn't going to be sleeping while he's in the home. I was just going to wait till he went to work. He went to work in the mornings, so I was like, I'm just going to sleep during the day. So I was doing that, and then he caught on to what I was doing. So he started trying to, attack me during the day. And he did that a couple of times until I started securing the house and making sure that all the doors were locked and everything was secure so that he would have to announce himself when he would get back to the house. Um, he didn't like that, but it worked for me so that I was actually able to sleep. So that worked for me for a little bit. And then he started finding other ways of getting into the house. Very aggressive, very aggressive. So I go about a month where I'm, doing this routine where I'm trying to find times when he's not going to be at home where I can sleep. And I'm being successful at that. And that was really pissing him off. So he started trying to, sedate me and assault me while he was at home for the weekends when he was off work. So it was one weekend, I was real tired because I wasn't feeling well. And I ended up falling asleep on the couch out in the living room is where I slept. And he slept in his bedroom. And he had this big brown leather couch, and my head was propped up on the arm of the couch. And when I woke up, I'd fallen asleep for about 15 minutes. And when I woke up, right next to my head was a little mountain shaped pile of crushed pill right next to my head. And I turned around and I could see his back going into his bedroom. Now it's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. He's supposed to already be in the bed. He has to go to work in the morning. But yet, for some reason, he was up. I say for some reason, just for the sake of saying that. But we know what he was doing, what he was planning on doing. Um, so the following day, after this was done, I was just, trying my best not to come undone. Really, I was really trying my best not to come undone and harm him because that was really all the confirmation that I needed. So the next day, I sat him down and I just asked him, would this be something that he would do to harm me, you know, sedate me and to take advantage of me while I'm drugged? And his response was all I needed to hear. He didn't say a word. He just shook his head, looking down to the ground. I've known him for a very long time, and that was that body language of saying I'm guilty. Now, the drug that was being used on me was something called Special K. They call it Special K on the streets. It's called ketamine pharmaceutical. And if you crush it up in a pill form and blow it into someone's face, it sedates someone because it's a horse tranquilizer. It can actually keep you sedated for about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. If you put it into a person intravenously, that sedation will last longer. And that's what he was doing. Um, there were a couple other things that I experienced with him, which is another confirmation, but I won't get into that because, again, like I said, this is something that is still under investigation, so I can't talk about much. But once that happened, I was just like, I've got to get out of here because, I might have a moment where I might snap. And obviously, I can't keep going with trying to stay awake because he's trying to foil that. He's trying to find ways around what I'm doing. And this is his house. So um, just struggled with trying to, get out of that situation. And I think I ended up having to be there for another. couple of months. So it was like trying to stay awake. And he was becoming more and more aggressive. He was drinking a lot. Like he smoked weed, which is something that I did not like to do. And one of the reasons why, prior to when we were in college, I broke up with him because I just wasn't. I'm not into that sort of stuff because I know what it is. And but he was drinking a lot and having these outbursts and being very aggressive and acting like he was going to become physical with me and just really acting out of character. And it was, I think that was during the time where he was really trying to not do what he had been doing to me. I think he had been doing it to me for so long that he just become accustomed to it. And this is the reason why I say that. So we had, like I said, we were trying to rekindle a relationship back in 2013. He reached out to me over social media and wanted to rekindle a relationship. I hadn't spoken to him or seen him in 8 years. And, he was like, can we be friends? And, I'd like to, try to see if maybe, because I've changed and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, we could at least start off being friends, talking over social media and just kind of keeping it there. I was very skeptical about him because he's always kind of had this weird darkness to him where he was very intrusive and, kind of injecting himself in areas in my life that I wasn't openly giving. And so in the beginning of us talking, I didn't let him know where I was living. I was no longer living in the same state as him. And I didn't let him know where I was working, just things like that. So one night we're on the phone. We finally got around to talking to each other over the phone. That took us about a month. And when he and I were together, we did not have intercourse. He knew how I felt about that. I was very religious at that time. And, we weren't doing that. He knew how I felt about having children and about, the prospect of getting married. So, those were things that I wasn't really sure I wanted to do. And I was very adamant about that over the time that he and I dated. We were together for about 5 or 6 years. So one night we're talking, and of course he'd already asked me if I was single, and we established that on one of our social media conversations. And then I decided I was going to play a trick on him. I was like, hey, I got a kid. And I, made up this fake name and, told him he was 5 years old. And he was just real quiet. Oh, he was like, oh, yeah. And he was just very quiet. He didn't say much. He didn't ask any questions or anything. He was just real quiet.